good day, folks. It's good to be here with you again. Father Pierre Ducharme here, of course, and here to open up the third principal priority for St. Joseph the Worker Parish, which is social justice. If you've been following, my first talk was on the gospel being the principal vocation of the Christian, being to live the gospel, to preach the gospel at all times, to proclaim the gospel with renewed freshness each and every day. And from that we derive our parish priorities, the first being an inclusive church, the second being faith formation, and the third being social justice. I'm so proud to be part of a community that names social justice as one of our main priorities. It's a particularly challenging priority. And for many, it's an open question. What does social justice mean? Well, social justice means a lot of things, but it basically means that we are opening ourselves up to a relationship with the other where we are constantly concerned for the poor, for the excluded, for those on the margins. Now, I mentioned that this is a particularly challenging theme, the concept, social justice. What does it mean for St. Joseph the Worker to be concerned about social justice? It's particularly challenging, I know, because we can never go far enough. We could always go further in our acts of charity, in our works for the poor. And let's face it, the world at times can be a very difficult place for many. The other day, somebody was stopping by and I had this conversation with him, and he said, "Oh, well, if St. Joseph the Worker is so passionate about social justice, why don't we have tents for the homeless up all over the property?" And of course, my reaction to that, it made me a little bit uncomfortable to be challenged in that way. But at the same time, I've been a cradle Catholic my whole life, and I have never expected myself to be a perfect one. So I managed to deflect those challenges perhaps easier than some. But the fact of the matter is we will never be able to do everything. We have to prioritize, we have to choose. But it is admirable, at least, that we can name it. And once we can name it, we are on the right track. We head down that road. It takes courage to do that much. And it takes another set of courage to go the next step. But why do we name it as a priority? Well, of course, this parish has always been concerned with those on the margins. It's a big part of our history, our Franciscan history. The Franciscan Friars of the Atonement came to this location because it was a marginal location. So if you recall back to the history, this was a Japanese community, and they were accompanying the Japanese who were in internment camps during the Second World War. It's not a community of Japanese immigrants anymore. However, it is a community that is constantly aware of our diversity and many, many folks who are minorities in so many different ways. Now, we are a community, of course, that throughout our history has been engaged with works for the poor. I think back to the parish's history and the historical connection to the Doors Open downtown, and many of our parishioners and groups still go down there. We're involved, have been very involved over, even locally here in Richmond, at the soup kitchens and places that feed the poorest of our world. We have the Christmas hamper program, very active St. Vincent de Paul, and many folks who are helped out through the parish in many different ways. Our groups are engaged in works for the poor very often. Our groups, our larger groups, have fundraisers and events where they raise money for particular segments of our society or other organizations. But of course, we have our collections, which are very much a set thing for the Archdiocese. Some of them stay here locally, like the Refugee Collection, which is our own work of mercy, corporal work of mercy for the poor. And our Refugee Committee is very engaged and works very hard. Those are some tangible things that go on and have been going on for some time. But why do we do it? What does it all mean for us? Why is it a priority? What does it mean? What does social justice mean for St. Joseph the Worker going forward? And I go back to the fact that it is a priority for us because it's a priority for the Church. There's documents of the Second Vatican Council. The Church in the modern world defined the Church as existing for the world. So we here at St. Joseph the Worker are in this community where we are. We are in Richmond, Steveston area because we have a purpose here. Why are we here? What are we doing? How are we being a leaven for this world that we are in? And we never want to be in a situation where we're simply turned in on ourselves. We are a community that prays. We are a community that plays. But we are not merely a community that prays. We are not merely a community that plays together. We are a community that gives, a community that believes that we have a purpose beyond ourselves. Otherwise, it's simply navel gazing, and that's really not that much fun. So, social justice as a priority for us means that we are engaged or believe ourselves to be called, engaged through education, through advocacy, and through action. And there are various ways that we do that. At the adult level, of course, education, we have our parish missions, we have RCIA, and of course there are things that go on within the groups. There are workshops. For the children, we have the school, and we have prep, and all of this stuff is not particularly about social justice, but I would hope that there is a consciousness within our programs that social justice matters. I would hope that the work that the Church does and the history of the Church's engagement in social justice comes out. You know, when I presented this topic at the Faith and Food Supper, I went through all of the documents, and there are many, many documents, high-level documents from the Church that speak to social justice. It's a long and very powerful tradition and has always been sort of avant-garde at the global level. It's maybe not, no, I don't want to go there. That's a debate that's going on in my head right now about how that plays out in reality. But let's face it, the call of the Christian is always a challenge. And we go back to St. Francis of Assisi and the whole renewal of action, which is, we get caught up in words and we want to say that we're doing wonderful things, but the action is the tougher part. It is a tougher part, but we know we're called. We know we're called. We're naming the fact that we're called, and we're working at it. Our recycling initiatives here at St. Joseph the Worker have improved in the last year, and we could go further. There always was a tradition, well, not always, but has been for some time a tradition of recycling here at St. Joseph the Worker. So that's good. There are many things. And I would hope that our groups are in dialogue with the leadership of the parish in terms of what kind of initiatives they could engage in terms of social justice. What are the priorities, particular priorities in any particular year of the parish around social justice? Because we know that we can't do everything. And in fact, many individual parishioners who often will drop by my office and say, oh, we want to raise money for this and that, or, we want to collect coats for this and that, or whatever it may be. And they're all wonderful ideas, but we can't do everything. And I would encourage individuals to work with the groups that they are in. And if you have an idea such as that, to go through them, so it comes, by the time it gets to me, it's got a little bit of weight behind it, because we do what we can do as a community. We do better, and we know we can't do everything, but if we can all get on board with things, it goes a little bit further. Now, it's not just a matter of raising money for things. Being concerned about social justice is also being concerned about inclusion within our parish community, and I have talked about that in an entire talk, and making our groups a place of welcome and hospitality, making our parish events a place of welcome and hospitality to the poor, reaching out to those who need a helping hand, reaching out to our seniors who are shut in, going and visiting them. We do those kind of things. We take communion to them. Many volunteers in our parish do that. It's about involving men, women, young and old in our ministries, in our liturgical ministries. It really is having this sense that in a just world, everyone has a human dignity that is respected. Now, social justice, of course, is rooted in the teachings of Jesus and Jesus' preferential option for the poor. In the tradition of the church, it has developed into a sense that it is something that can be broken down and given to the lowest common denominator. So that is to say that right here at St. Joseph the Worker, there are things we can do. There's petitions we can sign. There's marches that we could feasibly attend. Who knows? These things could come up in the future. There could be ways that we can be involved, and we are involved in the Metro Vancouver Alliance. So that is forming alliances and partnerships with other organizations and finding ways to advocate for the poor in our community, because they do exist, believe me. And I don't want to get into the social problems that we have right here in Richmond right now, but we do have them, and they are numerous. But when it comes to us, what does it mean for us? What does social justice mean for us? I think it first starts with a consciousness that we are about something more than ourselves. It's not a relationship with God that I have, simply me and God. No, it's a relationship I have with the rest of the church and with the world. And if we have that sense, that profound sense that we exist for the world around us, in relationship with the world around us, so that we can serve them better, we will show the world what social justice means in a most prophetic way. And I really do hope that as a parish community, social justice is not something we take on as rogue renegades, individuals, or an individual rogue community either. I hope it's something we do in collaboration with each other and with the larger church and beyond. What does social justice mean? What does it mean for St. Joseph the Worker? It means that we are aware of our relationship with the world around us, consciously looking for the poor and the needy to better serve them, naming what we are called to be, and striving every day to become it little by little. Thank you.